What's going on, everybody?
I do it every time. What's going on? What's going on? Welcome to another episode of Grow, Live, Dream. I'm your boy, LaVar Robinson, and this is my brother T. Hutton, the motivator. And today we're going to be talking about deposits versus withdrawals, the investor mindset. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing really, really good, man. Today is going to be a great day. I am excited about the topic as we've already been kind of diving into it, just the two of us offline. I'm excited to be able to share this information with our watchers, our viewers, our subscribers, and like really help someone see what they're depositing at and where they're making these withdrawals from, because oftentimes we are making these blind deposits and blind withdrawals. So I'm excited, man.
That's right. I'm excited as well. And before we go ahead and get this thing rocking, y'all make sure that y'all commenting, make sure that you're liking, make sure that you're sharing, guys. Get this information out to as many people as possible, because we're trying to inspire and motivate as many people to go out here and take over the world, Craig. I'm just saying. But with that being said, what's going on, Facebook user? I'm not necessarily sure who that is. Go ahead and drop your name in the chat. And T. Hutton, let's do it.
So getting started right off the bat with investor mindset. What does that look like? Why do we say investor mindset? I know we're talking about motivational speaking, but how does that relate to investors' mindset? And we're going to jump right into it. First thing investors do, they make deposits and they make withdrawals. And the reason why we're starting off with deposit and withdrawals is because we need you to understand, what does this look like in your life? How does this apply to you? What are you making deposits in your life? Is it your friendships, your relationships? Is it your business? Is it your finances? And then what type of withdrawals are you making? What do these withdrawals look like? What do they actually mean for you moving forward? Because oftentimes we're making deposits that we're unaware of, or we're making withdrawals. And a lot of times we have we're in the negative. You know, so we're right. You remember when you're young, you hear people say, don't write a check that you can't cash.
Don't write a check that you can't cash. 100%, man. I remember that saying. What's up, Daniel? How you doing? But I remember that saying so much. And that's something that we have to do. We have to be very, very, very cognizant of what we're depositing and what we're withdrawing, right? Because just like an investor, sometimes you can invest into something and that investment fall through, right? And you not necessarily get anything back, depleting that bank account, right? And we got to make sure that we're doing what we need to do in our life to make sure that we're making the right deposits as well as making the wrong.
So when we look at making investments, let's start out by looking at, as an investor, what are you trying to get back? What are you looking for as a return on your investment? And in simple business terms is an ROI, return on investment. Like, so when you're thinking about the deposit that you're making, whether it's with family members or friends or anyone else, what is the return you're looking for on your investment? And what does those investments look like?
Some investments are short term, some investments are long term. Right. And that's the dope part about it. And, you know, I was just sitting here thinking, I was like, man, like, I want to see the hat, though. I mean.
So that's what we went with, huh?
So, I was just thinking, I want to see that hat, though. You know?
So one of my investments is my friendship with a good friend named Terry.
Come on, cowboy.
And he got me my hat. He got me my cowboy hat. So I'm ready. If you didn't know I live out here in Dallas, Texas, if you ain't got a cowboy hat and a set of boots, I'm going to get me my fourth pair of cowboy boots. If you ain't got a cowboy hat and some cowboy boots, you're not ready for the day.
You look like you need to invest in a horse or a bull or something.
You know what? Here's the funny story. We're talking about investment, short term, long term. Short-term investment is getting the hat. The long-term investment is because at some point when I leave out this city living, I'm gonna get me some land and I'm gonna get a horse. No worries.
Boom. And that's what and that's the dope part. That's the dope part about what we're speaking on. We have to make sure that we're intentional. We have to make sure we're intentional about, all right, don't you take that thing out, man. Don't take it out, man.
Hey, look, sometimes you have to say how.
You say you
I got a lot of
out
shadow right now.
yeah, and look, but we got to make sure that we're intentional and that we know from the jump as an investor what the outcome we're looking for. What's the outcome that we're looking for, right? Are we looking for a long-term investment? Are we looking for a short-term investment? What are you looking for in your life?
And that's the thing we really want you to really start to do, because see what investors do, they take the time to really realize what is it they want. Because if you don't know what you want, it's kind of hard to determine what to make the investment into. It's difficult to determine what type of investments you should be in, because there's different types of investors. There's what you call growth investments, and then there's what you call defensive investments. And I think the problem we oftentimes run into is that we find ourselves in defensive investments when we really want to see ourselves in growth investments. So what does that look like? What is a defensive investment when we're talking about my actual personal life versus like a growth investment? A defensive investment looks like this. You're only there because you have to be there. See, and when you look at it from a financial standpoint, a defensive investment is just something that doesn't really make money. It doesn't grow your interest. It's not providing a large ROI, large return on your investment, but it sustains you. It keeps you alive. And I know right now we talk to a lot of people, especially me, LeVar. I talk to a lot of people about the difference between surviving and thriving. See, your defensive investment has you surviving. There's some deposits that you're making with family members or friends. You're just getting by. You show up to the event because you don't want to not get invited next time. Not because you come there really to be there and celebrate somebody. You show up to the birthday event. You bring a little cheap gift. You really didn't want to go in the first place, but you show up just because you don't want to be on the outside. You're just surviving. That's a defensive investment when you look at your friends, because they can tell when you show up like, oh, he just came because he don't want to miss out on the next one.
He just here.
You in the back of the room. You ain't talking to nobody. You just present, but you're not present.
You know what? It's interesting you say that. I'm going to say this really quick, and then I'm going to toss it back over to you. A lot of people do that in business, in certain types of business, right? They invest, but they don't necessarily invest for growth. They're more so looking for investing from a defensive standpoint, right? Instead of understanding you need to invest to thrive, right? So you're not there. You've invested, but you're not necessarily there on your investment, right? People don't realize that sometimes when you're investing, you're putting yourself in a particular place to have to move. You should invest, then move, right? There's different types of investments. Some investments going to take for you to put in some leg work. Some investments going to take for you not to put in that leg work. But it's understanding the type of investments that you're looking for. It's understanding what you're looking to invest in your life.
Now, what I will say is this: all investments are going to require you to do some type of research. So here's something to try at home. When we think about it, there's a book. You can find it on Amazon. The book is called 7 Habits to Foundational Principles. Okay. It's by Frank. You can see it is Stephen R. Covey. And what I want you to do is, if you check that book out, they got it like $3.99, I think, for the Audible book. And it talks about this investment, these deposits and withdrawals, and they call it the emotional bank account, the EBA. And it talks about how you can go out to your family members and friends and ask them just straightforward, like, hey, what is a good investment for you? And they're like, what do you mean? What would you like me to do to help build you up? What can I say to you? What can I do for you to help you grow emotionally, to feel better about you, or better about where life is going? What can I do to help? And then you schedule that in. You schedule those deposits, and you make those deposits week over week, end over end. You make those deposits, and they say after 30 days, 60 days, then go back and check with your family member or friend and see if those deposits help. Check on your investment. See, a lot of people make investments and then forget about them. I.e., there's some people right now, LeVar, funny but not funny, that are locked out of Bitcoin. There are some billionaires locked out their accounts and they're still going their regular 9 to 5 because they can't get access to their money.
My goodness.
Because they didn't check on it while it was going up, so they don't have access to it now.
You know, I was sitting here thinking about investing, and one of the things that you need to know before you start investing is, what is your budget going to be? What are you willing to give out with your friends and your family and your co-workers, business partners? What energy, what are you actually investing? Like what level of investing have you decided to do? How much, right? And are you a habitual line stepper when it comes to that budget? When it comes to that energy, giving too much energy when you know you shouldn't be, depleting yourself when you know you should be? Are you an habitual line stepper? Because I come to tell you that majority of people are habitual line steppers when it comes to that. You wouldn't be a good investor because you would invest all of your money and lose it all. You got to make sure you have a budget. You got to make sure you know how much you're giving out, and make sure that you don't cross that line unless you absolutely have to, and it absolutely makes sense to the long goal.
Let me ask you, LeVar, when you think about, let's say this person is a habitual line stepper, and what would be your advice you would give them to really come up with a budget for themselves? Like how much energy should I give out? Like, what is the proper amount of energy that I should spend on investing in the lives of others versus how much energy I should try to maintain?
Well, the best answer to that is to know where you're going. The best answer to that is to know where you're going and how much time you need to give yourself. Once you know where you're going and how much time you need to give yourself, then you'll be able to look outwardly and say, okay, how much time can I give to what's not going towards what I'm looking to do? Right? You may say, well, my goal is to give X amount of time to helping the community. Right? But the way that you were able to, way you was able to give yourself that was to look into your life and say, all right, well, how much time do I have to give to something else outside of what I'm looking to do? So I would always say to make sure to know where you're going. I would always make sure that you know your end goal, and you know what needs to happen in order for you to achieve that end goal, how much energy you need to put towards that end goal, and you can disperse the rest of that energy or whatever energy you have left onto other people and other things. How about yourself?
I think when I look at it along the lines of knowing oneself. For me, budgeting is all about understanding the initial, like, what are you starting with? I remember when I remember when we was young, they used to have little math questions, and it'll be like, little Johnny has 5 apples, and he gives Susie 2, and he gives Robert 1, and how many apples do little Johnny still have?
Right.
Like, you have to start off knowing how many apples you have. You got to start off knowing how much energy you have. I've talked to you about some of my coaching sessions before that. I start off asking questions because I need people to take an inventory of their life. I need you to know what you're starting with, because we can't start to make deposits or withdrawals or investments into anything else until we know what we're starting with. So my thing I would say is, first off, take a true reflection at oneself and see what is it that you have to give and how much can you afford to give. You know, I was doing some research earlier today about our topic, and it's interesting because they were starting to teach deposit and withdrawals at the 2nd grade level. Like, it's required for the kids to be able to know the difference between a deposit and a withdrawal at the 2nd grade level. But it's amazing how, as an adult, we don't realize how we make deposit and withdrawals when we're not talking about our bank account.
I mean, that's actually pretty dope that they're doing it at the 2nd grade level. That's teaching them very early. There's a lot of people that don't even know how to balance a checkbook these days. You know, that's a lot of people that don't know how to do some of the basic things as it pertains to their checking accounts and stuff like that. So it's really dope. Whatever that school is, it's really dope that they're doing it at such an early age.
You want to hear what's interesting? One thing that you have to look at when you look at if you were to look at the way a checkbook is designed, it's kind of interesting because when you look at a checkbook, the very front of the checkbook has the checks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And before you get to the checks, before you get to what you can give out, it has one other sheet right there in the very front, and that's your account information. Knowing who's it belong to, who are you, who are you to be able to give it out. Then you look at the check itself, you have the checks, and then you have deposit slips. But at the very back of the checkbook, it has that ledger. And you have to work on that, balancing that checkbook, because you can write more checks than you have money for. LeVar mentioned being that habitual line stepper. You can write more checks than you have money for. And the interesting part about it is you have way more checks than you have deposit slips.
Mm-hmm.
So what that means, if you think about it like that, is this. You can go and you can find yourself in a position giving out way more than you have to give. You didn't deposit as much as you gave out, but you need to be able to look back at the back end and say, this is how much I have. Look at that ledger. You said a lot of people don't know how to balance a checkbook. When we was young, we had to learn how to balance that checkbook.
Mm-hmm.
Like that was part of a class curriculum. You got to learn how to balance the checkbook, because if you would spend more than you have, you'll find yourself paying a penalty.
Facts.
How many people are paying penalties for checks they've written that they didn't have the deposit for it?
Way too many, actually.
Because watch this. It doesn't require it, just like a bank penalizes you for writing a check that you don't have the money in account for, you haven't made enough deposits for. Your friendships do the same thing. They may be smiling in your face right now, but they already know you've made an overdraft. There's going to be an overdraft charge. They might be smiling in the moment, but in the back of their head, they're already saying, yep, he won't get another chance. Won't hurt me like that again. Won't let her do that again. I tell you this, won't happen next birthday. Don't look for me next time. Because see, you done already went too far, but you didn't pay attention because you haven't made enough deposits, or you're making poor deposits. Let's be honest. Like I said, it's important to figure out what those deposits really look like for someone, because some of the deposits we make are not, or what we want to be given to us, but not what others want to be given to them.
100 facts. I mean, when you start looking at this thing as it pertains to, deposits and withdrawals, like for real, if you start looking into your life right now, everyone who's listening, how many people are you depositing into? What are you depositing into your life? Right? What type of organizations are you depositing into? Like, what are you giving? Right? It doesn't have to be physical, right? It doesn't have to be physical, right? It could be mental as well. Even to the conversations that you give to your friends and family. I would like it and say that just asking somebody, say, what are your goals? What are your goals in life? That's a deposit. That's a deposit, because you just deposited a thought into someone's mind. If they didn't know, now something in them is saying, I need to figure this out. That's a deposit, right? We got to make sure that we're paying attention to that, right? And we got to also make sure that we're depositing where withdrawals are coming from as well, right? Because if you have people that in your life, for example, T. Hutton, my brother, if he's pouring into me, if I'm taking from him, I want to make sure that I'm giving back, because I want to refill his cup just as he's filling mine. So the question that I have for everyone that's watching and all of the listeners that will watch is, are you making sure that you're depositing the right things into the people?
So let's take this a step further and really start to kind of focus and home in on the withdrawal portion of things.
Mm-hmm.
What I want you to think about when we look at this withdrawal portion of things is, are you overdrawn? Are you taking more from yourself than you're capable of? Because sometimes we'll go too far to help somebody else. Like I seen a picture a while back where it's a guy, he's made of stones, and He's taking pieces of himself to help build somebody else. And the more he takes away from himself, the more he crumbles. But he's doing everything he can to build the man in front of him. And I think that's what we do oftentimes. We will take from ourselves to build others, but we don't realize what it costs us to help somebody else sometimes. And we'll find ourselves broken down because we don't take an account of, hey, I haven't been putting good deposits into myself. So now me making all these withdrawals, now I'm broken down also.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever found yourself, LeVar, like doing too much for somebody else? I remember, like, I'll be honest with you, I used to do it a lot. It was a bad habit. Like, I was a habitual line stuffer on that. Like, I would go too far all the time. Like, I would just go out of my way. And it was for people that I even knew that wouldn't do it for me. I would still go out of my way.
Well, I mean, it's something in you that would hope somewhere that those people would do it for you. You know, something in you that hopes that people are as good as you are. It's something in us that hopes that. But reality is this. Yes, I've done that. Family, people who I thought were my friends. I've done that, right? That's just something that you learn from. And so along the way, you have to learn from it. And it's perfect that you asked me that question, because it made me think about a bank. See, with a bank, it's only so much overdrawing you're gonna be able to do before they shut your account down.
Facts.
So my question is that, are you paying attention to those people that are overdrawing your account, and are you shutting them down? Are you shutting it down? You know what? Listen, too much of me is coming. I'm giving too much over here. And I'm feeling depleted. I got to move on. It's not personal. See, that bank didn't take it personal.
Business.
That bank didn't take it personal. They saw you as a liability. So they couldn't keep your account open too much longer. They had to shut it down. So we got to make sure that the people that are in our lives, if they're overdrawing, they taking too much energy from you and they're not giving that energy back, they're not pouring back into you. If every time it turns around, you're giving energy and not giving anything in return, you got to shut it down. It's not personal. You got to put that energy, you got to put that time, you got to put that money somewhere else, somewhere where it's going to grow.
Because the point of the deposit itself is to grow. ROI is king. Like, you want to make sure all your deposits are growing and growing at a fast rate. You don't want the slow growth. You want the fast growth. Don't get me wrong. If you got slow growth, don't stop watering it. But just know that there's some other things that you can invest into that may have a faster growth rate. There's some other friendships, there's some other relationships, there's some other business opportunities. Let's take this back to business, LeVar. When we think about this from a business perspective, because most people say, you know what, I want to better myself, but I need to make more money. I need more time. I need more freedom. All these different things where there's a cost associated with it. That's the withdrawal portion of things. But there's a deposit, which is also a cost, because the deposit itself is you giving something in order to get something back. You want that return on your investment. Well, guess what? You got to make an investment. It has to come out of you and go into something else for you to get something back.
And listen, I absolutely loving this, really, because I hope that people are getting. I hope that you guys are understanding the significance of how we flipped the deposits versus withdrawals. Right? It's the same thing. I always like to say that things really are just small microcosms of each other. And you can really use the same principles in almost every area of life, like for real, right? But if you're looking at deposits versus withdrawals and just looking at what you're giving out, it don't matter whether it's business, it don't matter whether it's friends, it don't matter whether it's family. We have to be clear at the end of the day, where are my deposits and where are my withdrawals? Really start looking at that in your life. Really start paying attention to that. Because if you're not, I was looking at this and in my mind, I kept coming across working out. I kept coming across calories in versus calories out. And I know it's a little bit different, but once again, it's really all the same thing. Like, sometimes you can take in invisible calories.
Deposits.
Sometimes you can take in invisible calories, deposits. Sometimes you can take them in and you're not paying attention to it. That means it's hurting you. You don't realize it. You wondering why you can't lose weight or you keep gaining it. Right? In the world of what we're talking about, you wonder why you're depressed. You wonder why you're stressed. You wonder why every time you get around this particular individual, you feel a certain way. Right? Same thing. We got to make sure that we're doing what we need to do to make sure that we're getting out of what we need to get out. It's not all about that person or one person giving you the same thing that you give them. It's about them finding a way to pour back into you. You may give monetarily, they may give in a form of a push. I just told you guys something. You may give monetarily, they may give in a ton in the way of a push, in the form of a push. Right? In the form of some advice, in the form of positive energy, in the form of belief. Just understand, it's like sowing a seed. You over there smiling. What you got, boy?
Hey, I was just sitting here laughing at myself, man, because you said in the form of a push, and I was just sitting here thinking that if you sign up with T Hutton Motivator, then you signed up for a spotting kick. Like, I don't get pushes. Pushes are too soft. Like, I don't. You gonna get this spotting thrust kick. Like, you gonna know that you've been sent the right direction because it's gonna send you somewhere. Like, so I'm having a conversation and I'm like, you should know where you want to go. You should know. Don't get me wrong. You might not know how to get there, but you should know where you want to go. So when we look at that, we start to speak to the outside world and we say, look, world, this is where I want to go. How do I get there? It's interesting because, LeVar, we talk about books and stuff all the time. Sometimes I go back and reread or re-listen to audiobooks. I was riding yesterday. I spent 2 hours yesterday in the car doing that 2 hours, man. I listened to almost the entire book of The Alchemist again. Mm-hmm. And in the book, it was talking about speaking to the world and the world giving you little openings of windows, like saying, hey, this is how you go here. This is how you get there. This is what you need to do next. Mm-hmm. And if you know where you want to go, you know what the goal is. All you got to do is open your eyes. There's going to be some opportunities, but sometimes you don't want to move. If you go to thehuttonmotivator.com, scroll down the page off to the right-hand side, and you click that you want an appointment, that's going to get you that kick. Because the thing is this, you got deposits. Let's be honest. You got deposits, you got withdrawals. You, like before I said, you might make a financial deposit somewhere, and then somewhere might give you a kick, a push, a thrust in the right direction, because there's sometimes a push won't get you there. Mm-hmm. Sometimes somebody can nudge you and say, hey, look, you really need to be doing this, LeVar. You said you wanted to lose a little weight, but you can't lose weight with that chocolate cake. I've seen you 3 days in a row. Every day I see you, you got a chocolate cake, a chocolate bar. You just like chocolate. But that kick, when you walk up with that chocolate bar and not slap it out your hand, you like, whoa, what was that? You didn't need that because you said you didn't want it. You're trying to make a change. And if you want to make a change, sometimes that deposit you make is going to take something from you. Mm-hmm. It's going to push you the way you need to go.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really about understanding the big picture. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this out there, and I'm gonna lob it back over to you for you to close it. So listen, at the end of the day, know where your deposits are. Are you depositing in the people? Are you depositing in the people? Are you depositing into yourself? Are you reading? I'd say go read, one of my favorite books, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Go read that. You have to understand that at the end of the day, your goal is to always make sure you're depositing. You're depositing into yourself, depositing the right food, right? Depositing the right knowledge, wisdom, making sure that you have the right people around us, right people around you, so that they're depositing the right information into you, right? Make sure that you have the right people around you so that when you need it, they're depositing that Sparta kick. Make sure that you have that, and then make sure that you're withdrawing. Everything is our choice. Everything our choice. If you choose to withdraw from people, make sure that you're depositing. Make sure that you do that in one way, form, and fashion. If you choose, make sure that you do that. Because at the end of the day, karma is everything. And you can get in any circle you want to. It's not about getting in the circle. It's about staying in the circle. You can get around the right people all you want to. It's not about getting around the right people. It's around staying around the right people. You can get around rich and wealthy people that'll give you all the knowledge and wisdom that you need. It's not about getting around those people. It's about staying around those people. Are you growing as an individual? Are you the right person? And making sure that you're somebody who's going to continue depositing into whatever circle you decide to get in. That's all on you. The investor mindset, deposit versus and withdrawal. Go ahead, brother.
You said it. Deposits versus withdrawals. And it's not even versus. Honestly, it is and. Because there's going to be a yin and a yang. There's going to be a deposit here and a withdrawal there. Just make sure your deposits outweigh your withdrawals. You never want to find yourself in an overdraft status. You never want to face that penalty for overdrafting. If you're talking to your family members, your friends, deposit. Why not? You love them, deposit it to them. If you're looking to grow your finances, deposit. Invest in the right things. Do the research on the back end so you know that you're invested in the right things. Make sure you are prepared for what you are invested into. And actually have a realistic idea of when your return is coming. So you know when to withdraw. You don't want to withdraw too early. You don't want to withdraw too late. There is a season for everything. This may be your season to make deposits and to make a lot of those. Because one day you're going to be looking for a harvest. You're going to be looking to make a withdrawal. Make sure you get yourself in position to withdraw. Now, next show on Thursday, we're going to be talking about compounding interest. What it looks like when you make the right deposit. How does that interest compound? And what does that look like? What does that mean for your life? I'm excited about compounded interest because, when LeVar said it, my mind was like, ooh, compounded interest. And man, it's going to be a great show. So make sure you tune in on Thursday, same time. It's going to be 2 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Central. Lock us in, pull us on your calendar, set a reminder, alert. Go over to Grow, Live, Dream, join the community. Make sure you like, love, and subscribe. And most importantly, share the message. There's somebody out there that needs this message. And more importantly, there's somebody that needs you to give them that deposit. Believe in them. Share this message with them. Once again, we appreciate you and have a great day. Thanks for watching Grow, Live, Dream.